Alright, what's up guys, and welcome to Gaming History 101's continuing buyer's guide for retro consoles. Today we're doing a console that I don't think a lot of people get a chance to see. This was much more widespread in Japan as the Mark III and as the Master System in Europe, where it was much more popular, but looked very different. So this VCR looking item here is the none other than the Sega Master System, also known as the Power Base, which is why on the Genesis the adapter that lets you play Master System games on the Genesis, it's called a Power Base converter. This came out 2 days after the NES, or before. Now I'm getting sketchy on my history, but anyway, I've definitely written about it on Gaming History 101 if you want the exact dates. But came out at the same time as the NES, and basically got screwed in America for various reasons, most of them, in my opinion, being the fact that Sega wasn't very well known, didn't get a lot of distribution, and Nintendo kind of had the kibosh on all their licenses. You basically couldn't release any Nintendo games on the Master System. In certain ways, apparently it's graphically better, but I see mixed reviews there. But if you've never gotten a chance to see this console, it's kind of interesting. So it's got 2 ports for controllers right here. They kind of look Atari style. They did use cards, which some may call like thin cards or hue cards when they were used on the TurboGrafx. And then most of the games were also in cartridge form. But you can do either one, depending on the version of the game you've got. The other very interesting thing about this console is, if you can't see it here, reset button on the top, like most would expect. But there's also a pause button, which actually doubles up as a start button in most games. Also, there's a light here that'll let you know whether you're using cartridge or card. Kind of shows the controllers in the system. Power button's right here, toggles on and off, and there you have it. The console doesn't really have much going on. There's an expansion port on the bottom, like Sega will have with all of its consoles, but it's I don't think it was ever used. And then looking over here in the back, you've got a pretty standard setup, just like the Nintendo. This is where your AC goes in. This is where your RF switch goes in. This has an AV multi-out. I'm sure there are different AV ways to hook this up, but I'm thinking this is mostly for PAL TVs, but I could be wrong. And then there's the channel 3-4 switch. Anyway, all right. If you're going to buy a Master System, you definitely want to have a couple of things. The first, and probably most important, is, boom, the AC adapter. If you look carefully, it's probably not going to focus very well on my cell phone camera, which is unfortunately the best camera I have because I invested in game capture equipment over cameras. This is a model 3025 AC adapter. It is a 9-volt DC 1 amp adapter. The reason that is important is because I don't think any other power sources for Sega consoles and or Nintendo consoles follow this exact spec, so you want to make sure you follow that exact spec. However, the power in looks extremely common. Looks like almost anything from the Nintendo and various other consoles will have that power in. So the one thing you want to make sure is you can make the adapter at Radio Shack, but you want to make sure it's 9-volt 1 amp. You can fluctuate a little bit, but do that at your own risk. My recommendation is to do those exact power specs. Second thing, boom, the RF adapter. As far as I know, without modifications, this is the only way to hook it up to your TV. Again, like I said with the Nintendo Buyer's Guide, if you do not have a way to, or if you don't want to use the screw-in or want a different option, you can hook this up to a VCR and then use those AV outs. You can also use it like I do for the capture card. But for the most part, any TV you've got, even HD TVs, should have a hookup for this. On the end of this is the hookup in the back. It looks like a regular RF single RCA hookup, which means, and safely, you could use a TurboGrafx AV cable, or more commonly, a Nintendo RF AV cable that has the RF adapter on it, and it'll work fine. It also means that if you have multiple consoles you want hooked up to your TV, the old way to do it was to screw them one end to one end and kind of daisy chain them together onto the TV. Causes a lot of interference. It is kind of a pain in the ass. So the better way to do this is to use one for all of them. Heck, you could use the same RF adapter for both the TurboGrafx, the Nintendo, and tag on the Master System. Again, you're going to need those things to hook it up. But another important thing you're going to want is, boom, a controller. This is what the Sega Master System controller looked like. very similar to the Famicom controller, although quite different from the Nintendo controller. In certain ways it's not, but I mean for the most part. It has buttons 1 and 2. Button 1 works as a start button in a lot of games, but not in all games, which is why you need to be very careful. Try playing Phantasy Star without actually having a console with a with a pause button that works. You're going to find it very hard to play. Anyway, cord comes out of here, goes all the way to this hookup. Now this hookup looks identical to the Genesis. I do not know if Genesis or also the Atari is what used it. I don't know if either of those will work, but it looks like it'll at least plug in. Now, because this console, just like the Nintendo, has a lot of two-player games, boom, you probably want a second controller. It's always a good idea. Realistically, for the Master System, you're either going to find a console with 2 controllers or not. So it's going to kind of come down to the library you want. Now, speaking of library, this is what your Master System games look like. Very nondescript, very boring cartridges, or the cards. Now, granted, I don't have any games with the Hue cards, or the Sega cards. None of the games I play, I really liked them on. They didn't have a lot of information. They were very basic games, looked like Atari games. So, this one's very popular. This is Space Harrier, one of the few Sega arcade games that was ported to the Master System that you cannot find on Nintendo. Now, what you'll notice about these cards is they're very nondescript. In fact, if you stack them up like one would expect to, you don't know what the hell the game is. That's kind of bad. So, Sega, I really wish you had found a better solution. A lot of people I know, even though this is not good for collectors or for the market, write the name of the game at the top, maybe in Sharpie, maybe with a piece of tape or something. It's your call. But for those that don't know, we're doing a contest on GamingHistory101.com. You can win almost every game that's shown in these Buyer's Guide videos. Space Harrier is part of that. So go get on the website, figure out how to enter the contest, share your Christmas story, and boom, you could win Space Harrier among others on the Master System. Now, a couple of accessories that I have, I just want to show them off because they look so goofy and they're going to be hard to find, is one, the light gun. Of course, I do love light gun games, so of course I had to find a console that had the light gun. It is known as the Light Phaser. And as you can see, it looks very Star Trek-like, but at its core, it feels kind of like a cheap knockoff version of the Zapper. In truth, it's just like the Zapper. But that's what it looks like. Now, just as I said in the Buyer's Guide for the Nintendo, you do not want to use this with a HD TV, an LCD TV. Well, HD TV is not completely accurate. You don't want to use it with an LCD TV, a projection TV, a plasma TV, or anything like that. They don't work. You have to use an old school CRT television. And last but not least, for posterity's sake, boom. These, if you do not know what they are the 3D glasses. Believe it or not, the Master System was capable of displaying 3D images, and I have a broken pair of these glasses. When I say broken, they do function. It's just, as you can see, the arm is broken. But yeah, they allowed you to basically play your games in 3D using the interlace. The only downside to it is, and this is important for anybody who wants to buy these, if you want to use it in 3D, you need to have the glasses, which do have a hookup at the end of them. If you don't know what this is, this basically looks like a mini or headphone jack with 2 prongs. That requires a cartridge that plugs, I believe, into the card adapter because all 3D games are up in the cart slot. I have a couple of 3D games such as Zaxxon, but I need the card adapter that plugs into here, and then I plug this into the card that goes into there, and I get 3D when I'm looking at the screen. Unfortunately, I do not have that card, and I get the distinct impression it's going to cost a lot of money to get. However, I do have the glasses, which I guess is half of the battle. Anyway, this is the Sega Master System. For those looking for it, this console is rare enough that on the market it's very hard to predict what you're going to pay for this. I have seen as much as probably $100, $150 for even the simple setup I have here. If you can find it for like $50, awesome. I would say if you're going to go for a Master System, try to find something with as many accessories and games as you can. They will be hard to find. Most Master System games are going to be about $5 a piece. You shouldn't pay a whole lot more for that, so don't let the games fool you into paying more for a console. A good working console itself, with all its accessories, with the official, AC power and the 2 controllers, yeah, I would say you're getting a good deal if you can pay less than $30. And more realistically, especially in big cities, you're going to pay more like $50 to $100. $1,500. But that's our buyer's guide on the Sega Master System. Definitely go to gaminghistory101.com to figure out how you can enter the contest and win this and many other games for this console. You're not winning the console, you're just winning games. Also, you can see write-ups for this console and many others, and you can see the write-up on the specific buyer guide that gives you a little bit more information than I'm providing here on the video. But I just want people to see what these look like. Here's the Sega Master System. Peace.